for a long time over there at NBC, the executives have come and they've gone. I don't even know who these two people are who are running NBC now. I don't know these people who brought Ronna in. And I will tell you one other thing about Chuck Todd. He told me early on in my time at NBC, he was wrong in my case, but that he said, you'll outlast most of the executives here because the executives come and they go and they do let the inmates run the asylum over there. And it's extraordinary to see them cloak themselves in this highbrow intellectualism, Emily, that we are the gatekeepers for this vaunted brand, and this scumbag can't have anything to do with us without any self-reflection on the sins of that network and its talent.
I mean, we've seen so little reflection to that point on how badly, NBC News botched the Russia collusion thing from the beginning so egregiously. They currently employ Ken Delanian, who left the Los Angeles Times because I think it was WikiLeaks showed emails with him going back and forth with the CIA, actually running his stories by his sources at the CIA. And they let Ken Delanian basically take the lead on their Russian collusion coverage. And we have seen basically no reflection from them on that. We've seen no reflection from them on their coverage of trans so-called healthcare, which honestly, if we're drawing lines in the sand and they want to have a line in the sand as election denialism, how about how egregiously they have botched the stories about transgenderism and how they have been complicit and actually more than complicit, aggressive in leading so many young women and young people down that devastating path. I mean, as long as we're drawing red lines in the sand, how about that? And it's actually kind of telling. We have a story up on the Federalist today that I thought put it really well. Why does Ronna McDaniel want to be a part of this? I mean, seriously, she had a response to Chuck Todd the other day.
I can answer that.
$300,000.
I don't know if I agree with it, but I understand it because people on the right continue to believe, some people, that if they can get their voice or their message or their positions in front of, groups of voters who are not already on the right, then they'll understand us better. Maybe they'll vote differently, right? It's like this, if they could just, it's like the way, frankly, you are when you have somebody addicted to drugs in your family. If we could just, and the just game, it doesn't work, but I think that's what was in her head. But keep going.
No, I agree with that. And in her exchange with Kristen Welker this weekend that really set Chuck Todd off, Kristen Welker asked why she didn't, denounce Donald Trump's claims about the 2020 election before. And Ronna McDaniel's answer was really telling. It was essentially that, well, you have to take one for the team when you work at the RNC. That's just kind of how it is. And that's true. But that's actually so bad to admit. It's absolutely true. But now you're auditioning for a $300,000 a year corporate media gig. And you're like, well, I just took one for the team. That's the way that Washington works. And that's actually where there are big audiences for shows like this one, because people are so sick of it. So to Eliana's point, NBC actually, if they were outside of their bubble, they dismiss everybody to the right of Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney as basically in a kooky MAGA bubble, not just normal people who are upset about lies on Russia, on COVID, and all of that stuff. So they don't understand that there's this huge appetite in the country for real contrast and for people who disagree with each other. So they should have actually gone further than Ronna McDaniel if they really wanted to do the work of showing that contrast and of bringing new voices in and challenging their own preconceptions, which have led them down dangerous paths. For example, we could keep talking about Russia. We could keep talking about the border. There's so many different times that they have screwed this up. They should have hired someone who is actually even more pro-Trump than Ronna McDaniel and who wasn't just going to squish out when Kristen Welker's like, hey, and she's like, well, I was just taking one for the team the last 8 years. I mean, it's just
look how often this kind of thing has failed, right? I'm thinking of Kevin Williamson down at the Atlantic when he tried to go there from National Review. And think about even Tom Cotton over at the New York Times, that op-ed, and James Bennett, the editor who ran it. Barry Weiss leaving like Khaleesi from the New York Times because she's center left, but she was too right for them. We could keep going. My God, there's just so many who have been. MK Ham pushed out of CNN. MK Ham, she's not some fire-breathing MAGA acolyte, right? Even Jeffrey Lord, who was a Trump supporter, he was true MAGA when Trump was running the first time. He was too crazy for CNN, right? It's like they've tried it. They've tried to have some people who are on the right at these networks, they can't stand them. They can't stand them. They keep trying only to be horrified when they find out they actually are conservatives and they don't share the views of the lefties, and they're not Adam Kinzinger, whatever his name, and they're not a Liz Cheney, who is a conservative, Eliana. I mean, I'll give her that. She hates Trump. But like, that's the only way you can get on there, right? Like, you could be a conservative who hates Donald Trump, you know, but eventually they start migrating. I bet you it's a matter of time before Liz Cheney declares herself an independent, like Scarborough. Nicole Wallace is a Democrat now. She used to pretend to be a Republican, or maybe she actually was. I don't know, whatever she is now. She's hard left. Anyway, they're not interested in getting a true conservative who's going to espouse conservative ideas and actually potentially defend Donald Trump on their airwaves.
Yeah, I think it's the defending Donald Trump part, and it's not Trump proper, but saying like, look, we have two choices in this election. We have Trump and we have Biden, and I'm going to choose Trump. That is not, I don't think that's an acceptable view that you can take on the air at these networks. And they very much want to put that view beyond the pale. One of the other things, by the way, that they have labeled beyond the pale and that they criticized Ronna McDaniel for was her criticisms of the media, which they put in the endangering democracy category. And that I found far more objectionable than their criticism of her for, denying the 2020 election, which was ridiculous. And she did not acquit herself well in that regard in her interview with Kristen Welker. However, when they say that, oh, she vilified the media and how could we have her on air? They have a lot to account for, and their unwillingness to have anybody on their airwaves who has any criticism of them for the things that they got wrong, I think explains entirely why so many people have written off the mainstream media and are tuning in to the Megyn Kelly podcast and alternative forms of media. Barry Weiss's Substack, who are reading the Free Beacon, who are reading the Federalist. It is why media is balkanized, because they do not allow dissenting voices on their airways. And this is not just MSNBC, which came out of the gate early and said, we're not booking her at all, that we're talking about. This is the mainstream outlets, the New York Times, NBC News, the big players.
Find me a Republican, Eliana, right, who hasn't criticized the media. Like, if that's a deal breaker for MSNBC, they'll never get a Republican on their airwaves. That's most of us. I'm not a Republican, but I'm definitely more conservative in my thinking. Most of us wake up thinking about the latest way we hate the media, the latest sin the media is committed. How often do you see those posts on X? As much as you hate the media, it's not enough. And you get another example. Like, I think everyone who's center or right of center hates the media. And yet you get hired, I guess, as an NBC contributor if you've said negative things about them.
Yeah, that view is beyond the pale, not allowed. And they have to put it in the you're endangering democracy bucket because they have to cast themselves. It's Jim Acosta syndrome. We are the heroes and the heroes in our own stories. You saw a lot of that, which, by the way, this is doesn't follow logically from anything I was saying, but it wasn't that long ago that Joy Reid's blog was hacked with, quote unquote hacked.
Oh, right. Yeah.
With homophobic slurs, and that the investigator, whatever, she's still looking for the real killer with OJ, the real hacker of the blog.
Truth. And it's true. Stop it, Eliana. Truth. And honesty.
Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski on their show says, we weren't consulted about this, as if, the executives over there are supposed to consult them about every move they make in managing the company. And they sit there with Al Sharpton every day, who not so long ago was ginning up race riots in Crown Heights. I mean,
and conspiracy theories.
There is of course, a grotesque double standard here that you could point out while having criticisms of both sides of this equation, but the double standard is appalling.
Debt. You can go to bed thinking about it, and you can wake up thinking about it too. Here's the truth. The system traps you in debt. High-interest credit cards and loans make it nearly impossible to pay off your debt. And insane inflation keeps you stuck paycheck to paycheck. Done with Debt can be a lifeline for you. Done with Debt has an ingenious new strategy to help erase your debt faster and easier than you ever thought possible. Done with Debt analyzes all the debt options that you qualify for. They know how to reduce bills. They know how to cut interest rates. And their skilled staff of negotiators know how to get debt out of your life permanently, without bankruptcy and without a loan. Done with Debt has experts who can share with you strategies for eliminating debt. But you need to hurry because some debt solutions are time sensitive. Here's how easy they make it. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Donewithdebt.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.